Number 10.
Tomb Raider.
Don't you fucking move! Kill them all!
Tomb Raider is an action-adventure video game developed by Crystal Dynamics and published by Square Enix. It is the 10th title in the Tomb Raider franchise, and operates as a reboot that reconstructs the origins of Lara Croft. Tomb Raider was released on the 5th of March 2013 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Tomb Raider is set on Yamate, an island from which Lara, who is untested and not yet the battle-hardened explorer she is in other titles in the series, must save her friends and escape while being hunted down by a malevolent count.
Она тоже была порядочной стервой.
Gameplay elements focus more on survival, although exploration is used within the game when exploring the island and various optional tombs. It is also the first game in the main series to have multiplayer. The game suffered a delayed release from late 2012 to March 2013. Upon release, Tomb Raider received critical acclaim, with critics praising the graphics, the gameplay, Tomb Raider went on to sell more than 11 million copies as of November 2017, making it the best-selling Tomb Raider title to date.
Number 9.
Hitman Absolution.
Approach the cover in front of you.
Hitman Absolution is a stealth video game developed by IO Interactive and published by Square Enix. Before release, the developers stated that Absolution would be easier to play and more accessible, while still retaining hardcore aspects of the franchise. The game was released on the 20th of November 2012, which is in the 47th week of the year in reference to the protagonist, Agent 47. Hitman Absolution was met with a polarized reception. Most positive comments were concerning the game's graphics, environments and locations, and the varied gameplay options. However, many critics disliked the game for its linear structure as opposed to the open-ended nature of previous installments.
Use your fiber wire to silently eliminate the guard up ahead. Clean kill. Notice the fiber wire allows you to drag your target immediately.
As of March 2013, the game had sold over 3.6 million copies. A sequel, Hitman, was released episodically in 2016.
The container is now full.
Number 8.
Sleeping Dogs. Sleeping Dogs is an action-adventure video game developed by United Front Games and published by Square Enix. Set in contemporary Hong Kong, the story follows Wei Shen, an undercover Chinese-American police officer on assignment to infiltrate the Sun On Yee Triad organization. Gameplay focuses on Shen's fighting, shooting and parkour abilities, and on gadgets that can be used for combat and exploration. Players must complete missions to unlock content and continue the story, but they may instead freely roam the game's open-world environment and engage in both legal and criminal activities. Actions such as fighting, driving and racing grant Shen statistical rewards and earn the player achievements. Upon its release in 2012, the game received positive reviews for its combat, voice acting, experience system and depiction of the city. Within 1 year, the game had sold over 1.5 million copies.
Number 7.
Wolfenstein: The New Order. Wolfenstein: The New Order is an action-adventure first-person shooter video game developed by Machina Games and published by Bethesda Softworks. The game is the 7th main entry in the Wolfenstein series and the successor to 2009 single-quote-s Wolfenstein. Set in an alternate history in 1960s Europe, where the Nazis won the Second World War. The story follows war veteran William B.J. Blazkowicz and his efforts to stop the Nazis from ruling over the world. The game is played from a first-person perspective, and most of its levels are navigated on foot. The story is arranged in chapters, which players complete in order to progress. The game features a variety of weapons, most of which can be dual-wielded. The New Order received generally positive reviews, with praise particularly directed at the combat and the narrative of the game, and nominated it for multiple year-end accolades, including Game of the Year.
Number 6.
Max Payne 3. Max Payne 3 is a third-person shooter video game developed by Rockstar Studios and published by Rockstar Games. The game is the third entry in the Max Payne series and the sequel to Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne. The game is played from a third-person perspective. Throughout the single-player mode, players control Max Payne, a former detective. 9 years after the events of the second game, Max becomes employed as a private security contractor in Brazil, but becomes entangled in a quest filled with death and betrayal. At release, Max Payne 3 received highly positive reactions from critics, with praise particularly directed at its narrative, atmosphere, attention to detail and action. It was nominated for multiple year-end accolades from several gaming publications, winning a variety of them.
The last few prisoners were trapped in here, and more pressingly, it seemed I was too.
Number 5.
Mass Effect 2.
Heavy weapons, watch yourself!
Mass Effect 2 is an action role-playing video game developed by BioWare and published by Electronic Arts. It was released for Microsoft Windows and Xbox 360 in 2010 and PlayStation 3 in 2011. Mass Effect 2 is the second installment of the Mass Effect series and a sequel to the original Mass Effect. The game takes place within the Milky Way galaxy during the 22nd century, where humanity is threatened by an insectoid species known as the Collectors. The player assumes the role of Commander Shepard, an elite human soldier who must construct and gain the loyalty of a diverse team and stop the enemy in a suicide mission.
There are two, one on either side of the room you're in now.
With the use of a completed save game of its predecessor, the player can impact the story of the game in numerous ways. Mass Effect 2 was a commercial success and received universal acclaim from video game publications. The game received numerous year-end awards. The game is considered to be one of the greatest video games of all time.
Number 4.
Battlefield 3.
I guess we're late to the party. Where's the LT? Hang it right up here. Thanks.
Battlefield 3 is a first-person shooter video game developed by DICE and published by Electronic Arts. It is a direct sequel to 2005 single-quote-S Battlefield 2, and the 11th installment in the Battlefield franchise. The game was released in North America on the 25th of October 2011, and in Europe on the 28th of October 2011.
God! Sniper! Popping smoke! Where the fuck is he? Get him inside! Come on! Come on!
In Battlefield 3 single-quote-S campaign, players take on the personages of several military roles: as Marine, an F-18F Super Hornet weapons systems officer, an M1A2 Abrams tank operator, and a Spetsnaz crew operative.
Taking fire! 12 o'clock! Here they come!
The campaign takes place in various locations and follows the stories of two characters, Henry Blackburn and Dmitry Mayakovsky. The game sold 5 million copies in its first week of release, and received mostly positive reviews.
Let's go! Let's go! Behind me! Give me a sit rep! I'm up! I'm up! I'm up!
Number 3.
Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 is a 2012 first-person shooter developed by Ubisoft Montreal and published by Ubisoft. It is the third main installment in the Far Cry series. The game takes place on the fictional Rook Islands, a tropical archipelago which can be freely explored by players. Gameplay focuses on combat and exploration. Players can use a variety of weapons to defeat human enemies and hostile wildlife. After a vacation goes awry, protagonist Jason Brody must save his friends, who have been kidnapped by pirates, and escape from the island.
What the?
The game features elements found in role-playing games such as skill trees and experience. It was nominated for multiple year-end accolades including Game of the Year and Best Shooter awards by several gaming publications.
Number 2.
Grand Theft Auto 4. Grand Theft Auto 4 is a 2008 action-adventure game developed by Rockstar North and published by Rockstar Games. It is the 11th title in the Grand Theft Auto series. Set within the fictional Liberty City, the single-player story follows a war veteran, Niko Bellic, and his attempts to escape his past while under pressure from loan sharks and mob bosses. The open-world design lets players freely roam Liberty City, consisting of 3 main islands. The game is played from a third-person perspective, and its world is navigated on foot or by vehicle. Upon release, the game received universal critical acclaim, with praise particularly directed at the narrative and open-world design. It won year-end accolades, including Game of the Year awards from several gaming publications. The game had sold over 25 million copies by 2013, and is one of the best-selling PlayStation 3 games.
Number 1.
Assassin's Creed Rogue. Assassin's Creed Rogue is an action-adventure video game developed by Ubisoft Sofia and published by Ubisoft. It is the 7th major installment in the Assassin's Creed series. The plot is set in a fictional history of real-world events and follows the centuries-old struggle between the assassins, who fight for peace with free will, and the Templars, who desire peace through control. The story is set in the mid-18th century during the 7 Years' War. Follows Shay Patrick Cormac, an assassin turned Templar, who hunts down former members of his brotherhood after being betrayed by them. Gameplay in Rogue is very similar to that of Black Flag, with a mixture of ship-based naval exploration and third-person land-based exploration with some new features.